Hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing a review of Thundermother's new self-titled album. Now I did have high hopes for this album, so because of that I am going to be fairly fussy and harsh with my review. Their previous album, Road Fever, was a massive step up from their debut, and obviously when we heard last year that the lineup was splitting up and it was basically just left with Philippa, I was a little pessimistic of it, but when I heard the first single, We Fight for Rock and Roll, with the new lineup, it sounded good, so I kind of did, retain my high hopes for this third album. But on the first listen, I was a bit disappointed, so I've given it some time, I've went out for a drive, and, I've had the album on. But it hasn't really grown on us that much, if I'm honest. Now, I do want to make it clear that I do like the album. I think the album's really good, but I do have a lot of problems with it as well. None of these problems, however, are due to the new lineup. I think everyone sounds great on this album. They've all got their parts to stand out, and, the new vocalist is good. She seems pretty similar to Claire to me. So my problem is not due to how it's played or the production of it, but rather the actual songwriting. There's just nothing on this album for me that really stands out and that's really catchy and addictive and just makes you want to play it over and over. But going back to Road Fever, it had some really, really good infectious riffs like Fight Fire with Fire, Vagabond, Rock and Roll Sisterhood, It's Just a Tease, and I mean, the intro of Thunder Machine was just fucking amazing. So my main problem with this album really is that a lot of the riffs are a bit bland, and some of the songs also start to become very repetitive by the end of them. And there's only 2 songs, I'd say, on this album that I would class as catchy, and that's Racing on Main Street and Children on the Rampage. For me, these are the best 2 songs on the album. They're both, fairly addictive, but they aren't good enough to really stand out and become my next, favourite Thundermother song. So getting into the review of the actual full album, it starts off with Revival, which, it's a nice way to start it off. You've got a nice vocal melody which is sort of slowly building up, but the riff is very plain in my opinion, and it doesn't hook you in, and by the end of the song I was also starting to get really bored of the whole vocal melody in the chorus because it was just repeated so much. But on the other hand, the verse riff is really good. I really like the riff that's played throughout the verses, and the verses really stand out on this song. The second track is Whatever. It's a decent average Thundermother song. It's not absolutely brilliant. I didn't really think it was strong enough for a single, but it's good. I'd say probably one of the reasons why I don't like it more is I'm not really a fan of the whole vocal melodies throughout the chorus. Track number 3 is Survival Song, and this starts out with some fairly interesting guitar work, but this is played throughout a fair part of the song and starts to become a bit repetitive. The chorus to the song is decent, but the guitar that sort of accompanies the chorus is a little bit plain and starts to get boring by the end. But the part that really stands out for me on this song, however, is the solo. It has a really, really good solo that just kind of bursts out of nowhere. It is over pretty quickly though. The next track is Racing on Main Street. This has a very strong start, good guitar work, good verses and good chorus as well. I like the addition of the cowbell. I'm not too fond, however, on the treble bit. The treble. It kind of gets a bit repetitive again, and I start to get sick of hearing it by the end. But apart from that little bit, it's definitely one of the best songs on the album. Track number 5 is the power ballad Fire in the Rain. This is done really well actually. If you're going to turn an AC/DC style song into a power ballad, this is probably what you would expect. It's got a pretty nice riff, but it's not my favourite because it is slower and it drags in parts, and it's also a little bit depressing, and that's not why I listen to this sort of genre of music and this type of music. I listen to it to get some, adrenaline and positivity. That said though, I don't think Thundermother should avoid stuff like this in the future, because I've managed to pull off this style here. Track number 6 is Hanging at My Door. It starts off pretty strong, good vocals and vocal melodies. The main riff is a little bland though. I would have expected it to be a bit more catchy. And again, the guitar in the chorus is a little bit plain, but overall it's another solid, decent track. Next track is Rip Your Heart Out. I thought I would really like this one, but it hasn't grown on me. It's another one where the guitar work is extremely repetitive and once again lacks a catchy riff. For example, as it comes out of the first chorus, the riff is repeated twice before the second verse starts, which is usually alright, but it's the same riff that's repeated throughout the verse anyway, and the song just kind of like hammers away. And it's got a great beat and it's got a great amount of power to it, but for me, it just gets repetitive and it's not catchy enough for it to be able to get away with the repetitiveness. Like the vocals are good again, but it's just the guitar, I guess. Moving on to Original Sin. This is possibly the only song on the album which I would class as filler, maybe. Again, it's got another very bland riff to me. I understand why they've included all the other songs, but I don't really see the point in this one. It's just a very average sort of track. Track number 9 is Quitter. This is a sort of very upbeat Rose Tattoo sounding song. It's a good solid track. The main chorus and the melody of it, no, 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 I'm no quitter, is fairly catchy, and the vocal panning is good, but it is repeated so much that I do start to get sick of it by the end. Track number 10, the first single, We Fight for Rock and Roll. It's actually one of the strongest songs on the album, which I didn't think I would say, seeing as when I heard it, I thought it just kind of sounded like a normal average Thundermother song. That was just sort of a statement to say, yeah, we're back and we're going to continue. When it did first come out, I didn't find myself putting it on repeat or getting addicted to it. But it is a good, solid song, and I really do love the AC/DC Angus Young style guitar picking that's heard throughout the intro, the verse, and the background of some of the chorus as well. Follow Your Heart starts out very interesting. The initial riff kind of sounds like it has a 60s, 70s Stones vibe to it, and then it sort of goes into more of another sort of power ballad. The guitar work and the vocals are nice. However, after the second chorus and into the third verse, sort of during the middle of the song, again I start to get sick of it and it starts to get repetitive and boring. But then it does suddenly pick up, the pace picks up, and the last bit is really good. It's one of the best bits of music on the album, incredible guitar and vocals. Track number 12, Children on the Rampage. I really do like this song because I think it is catchy. The vocal melody in the chorus is catchy, the riff is fairly catchy, with this sort of ch-ch-ch bit. It's a very simple thing, but it just adds to it and makes it more catchy. Although all of this is repeated again quite a lot, but it is definitely one of the best tracks on the album. If it had a solo, it might have actually been the best song on the album for me. Moving on to the final track, Won't Back Down. This starts off with another plain riff in my opinion, and it also has some fairly bland guitar work in the choruses as well. The vocal melodies are good though, and I would say it's a good closer to the album. So there were some parts on the album where Philippa really stood out and was incredible, but overall I think more attention should have been paid to her guitar work in terms of the riffs and the hooks. Obviously not on stuff like Racing on Main Street, but on a lot of the songs it was mainly it just felt as if it was just about the vocal melodies and the lyrics rather than like the guitar. Now, I did read a few reviews suggesting this album was basically just Philippa letting her anger out at all of her previous band members. And I would agree, by the titles of the songs, it does seem like that. But I think now that this new lineup has settled in and released their first album together, they could really sort of work on something a bit more sort of catchy and impressive, which isn't as fueled with aggression towards the split up of the previous lineup. Overall though, I am going to be positive and give this album a 7.5 out of 10. The reason why is I think it's going to go down well with most people and, you know, most fans of the band. It's an empowering record, and overall I think a lot of fans will like that. It's also a solid rock album pretty much throughout, and in this day and age that is an accomplishment and it's something to be proud of. And another reason why I am giving it a good score as well is because I respect Philippa for continuing the band and not letting the band die. You know, finding a new lineup that is just as good as the old lineup must have been a difficult thing to do, so respect to her for that. This album is definitely not a step back for the band. It's slightly stronger than the original debut in 2014, but it's just not as good as Road Fever in my opinion. So that's my review. Let us know in the comments what your opinion is, because I know obviously a lot of people do like the album a lot more than me. But I do really like Racing on Main Street and Children on the Rampage. If anything, probably Children on the Rampage is my favourite song on the album. But I guess I just kind of had too much anticipation for the album, and that's probably my fault. But yeah, I'm going to end this video here. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out the AC/DC Legacy Facebook page if you're new. It's a community where, you know, I post album updates for all, you know, bands like Thundermother and Airborne and all that sort of genre of music. It's a place for fans of that genre of music to sort of go. So yeah, check that out if you haven't heard of it. And thanks for watching this.